Mr. Stonehands. He says it's just Stonehands.
Just Stonehands.
So, but before we do that, we want to make a shout out to Brock Gibson, who is sponsoring this. He, with Danny's Sports Tavern and Game Room, he's sponsored this event, and we surely appreciate his sponsorship. Stonehands is an artist, master crafter of instruments and flint knapper who focuses on native style art and culture. He's been giving demonstrations and lectures throughout the Midwest for over 20 years and is based in St. Genevieve County, which is news. We also want to make an announcement before we get started about future presentations. So on October 29th, we have David Fiedler, The Enemy Among Us. It's got to do with the Weingarten Prisoner of War Camp. And he wrote the book, The Enemy Among Us. He's going to do a book signing before the event, and then he will make the presentation. On November 13th, we've got Red Tails coming in. Red Tails is the Tuskegee Air Corps, which was an all-black Air Corps in World War II. And they're going to make a presentation. And it is a granddaughter, or is it a daughter?
The daughter of one of the airmen.
The daughter of one of the airmen from the Tuskegee Air Corps is actually going to come in and make that presentation. So that's going to happen on November 13th. November 26th, we've got a tractor show and hayride, and that's in with the Fall Festival. Is that right, Mindy?
Yes.
So we'll be doing that all day on the 26th. And on 12/11, Bill Nagler is going to present the bicentennial and tell us what happened in the bicentennial. And that's going to be in preparation for whatever we call the 300-year celebration. And I'm going to say that's probably a tricentennial, but I don't know that's proper. So for this evening's presentation, we're going to go ahead and introduce Stonehands to you. Stonehands is going to take it over from here. And again, Stonehands is an artist, master crafter of instruments and flint knapper who focuses on native style art and culture. He's been giving demonstrations and lectures throughout the Midwest for over 20 years. Thank you for coming. We
Thanks for having
appreciate it. Look forward to it. It's all yours, my friend.
Thank you.
You want the video first? You want to start
Sure,
with
we
the
can
video?
go to the video. And this is me flint napping and giving demonstration lectures some 80 pounds ago.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, guys. Jason Lyra, Kovaci Ironworks. Today we're out here at St. Joe State Park in Missouri. This is Stonehands, one of the, well, I guess you'd say infamous flint knappers around this scene, aren't you?
Wow.
About how long you been doing this, Stonehands?
About 12 years.
About 12 years now. So you're going to be making what, an arrowhead for us today?
Small arrow point, yep.
Showing us how to make that. So tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and let Stonehands sit down and get set up, and we'll get to this and hope you learn
My
something.
toolkit there. There's some copper, antler out there, used for different procedures. Pressure flaking on most of these, and these two are for percussion, striking. Piece of obsidian, volcanic glass. Gonna try to knock some flakes off there and see if we can't get a good arrow point out of one of them. Try one more time. Getting a real nice one. Scraping them sharp edges off there. Sharp edge will just crush. If you want a good flake to come off, you cannot have a sharp edge. Nice flake. It may come apart, chunks flay out here and there. That happens. It's probably going to break right across there. Just try to make it do that. A lot of reduction. You lose quite a bit. Be a little shaky. Knocking some little flakes off. Try to get rid of that sharp edge. Really need to get a braider, and I don't have one on hand. Don't want to beat it on it too long, it'll come apart. I'll quit beating on it and go to pressure flaking.
Now how does this differ in how you were doing it before between striking it? You're just going to push down on it then?
Use it like a miniature pry bar. Press in and down at the same time.
Okay.
For right now, I'm just going along the edge, and I want to clear a bunch of them knots off there. Kind of even it out a little bit.
Now let's go ahead and say someone was to try to do this at home, and they didn't have that piece of leather there. What would happen to their hand?
They would bleed a lot. There's two main rules to flint knapping. You break preforms, and you bleed.
Yep.
If you can handle those two things, you too can become a flint napper. Can't be scared of bleeding. A little bit at a time. Try to take too much at once and you're going to break it. Unless you're really, really careful. Go to a different procedure. Got some rough edges there. Just want to go around, dress it up. It's called shearing. I'm shaping and making platform all at the same time. Back to the pressure flaker. It's like a pry bar. All the way out to there. If you don't have a good platform, it will not run the flakes out into the center of the piece. A lot of people have a problem with that. Really need a little sandstone to abrade your edges. I don't have one right at the moment. It's really important to do this. Get all the sharp edges off there. Any kind of rock, sandpaper, brick, chunk of concrete, creek rock, anything will work. Get them sharp edges off there. It's very important to hook onto the edge of it to run your flake across the piece. If you do not do this, it will just crush the edge and you'll wind up with a big old knot that you'll never get off. Very important. made a series around the whole thing. Go around and abrade it again. This is an antler spade or wedge. I like that. Well, I want to put some nice notches in one. You can get real deep. Put it up against the edge there, press straight down. Make sure all the little sharp edges are out of there. Flip it over on the other side. Get right back in that same hook, right in that same cone that came out of there. Take a little more out. Clear all sharp edges off. There, what a good piece. Pretty good notch in one side. Probably good enough to kill.
Good job.
Thanks.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video of watching Stonehands making his arrowhead. Keep in mind, pretty much this entire video was shot in real time. So our total time on this for him to make this from start to finish was about 12 minutes. Now, I wouldn't expect any of you to make one that quick. He's been doing it for a little while. But that's exactly what you can do out there in the bush, guys. Find the right piece of rock, a little bit of practice, a little bit of knowledge, and you got supper. This is Jason Lyra with Kovaci Ironworks. Thank you for your support and your views. Hope to see you again real soon.
Arrowheads out of everything from opal to fossilized tree wood to, I guess, petrified dinosaur poop. I've made arrowheads out of all those things. I don't care where it comes from. If it's high in silica and it's solid, I can detach pieces. It's called the Hartzian cone. You ever seen a BB or a bullet hit a piece of plate glass? It detaches a cone shape. In flint knapping, I am taking a portion of the cone away, and it's all controlled by the angle. And I'm only taking away a portion of the cone. Some of them that I'm real careful with, I can do what's called parallel flaking. No machine.
Beautiful,
That's-
that's beautiful.
Thank you. No machine.
So what kind of?
This is obsidian also. This is the volcanic glass.
Oh, is it?
It's the obsidian also.
So how can you tell if they're high in,
Well, first thing, I want to whack at it.
oh, once you hit it, you can tell.
Right. So I can even tap most stones and tell you if it's going to work or not. If it's got a good ring to it, if it's got a ring, chances are I can make something out of it. If you get a thud or a clack, probably no good.
Yeah,
But if it's got a ring to it, like some of my higher quality chert and flint, now maybe not quite so much on the obsidian or glass, but on high quality flint or chert, there's a piece of obsidian. I don't know if you can see through it. I got some with really nice banding at the house.
Yeah.
That I'm still working on.
That's amazing.
Everything from opal to fossilized trees to dinosaur poop. Anything that's high in silica.
So, well, how is that transparent when it's so dark?
Only creator knows. I'm not sure how that works because in regular glass it don't seem to work that way. In obsidian, you don't never know. I mean, there's stuff that just looks like that, and I can take it in the sun and put it on an angle, and there's a rainbow of color there.
Oh, my word.
But you look at it square on, and it just looks like that.
Does that want to be a knife or an arrowhead?
Anything over 3 inches long is either or, depending upon what part of the country you're in. There's about 25% spear tip, 75% knife blade. Now, that changes from woodland area to out on the plains. You have to find out beyond that on your own, but it's for both. It's for both or either or. So anything about more than 3 inches is a knife blade or a spear point, of one type or another.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you were taking them plates off, how sharp are those little flakes?
Oh, about yeah, they're like little razor blades. I mean, so I can make the sharpest edge on the planet. The sharpest edge, bar none. I can get a faceted bladelet down to 1 micron thickness that will cut in between cells. Surgeons use them for eye and heart surgery. The sharpest edge on the planet. I've seen them under electron microscope. A surgeon's scalpel looks like a chainsaw blade compared to my faceted obsidian bladelet.
Oh my gosh.
The sharpest edge on the planet. Now, it doesn't have good durability, but for surgery and doing fine cutting, that pouch that you've seen on here, the leather pouch, I've given so many demonstrations with that, making a faceted bladelet and taking a piece and go, so there's not much left of it anymore. And plus me beating on it all the time with all those sharp edges, it pretty much after 15 years, there's not much left of it.
Oh my word.
Because I use it for leg support, so I don't drive them through my leg. But yeah, just anything that's high in silica can be made into some type of point. Some of the materials rougher and grainier. Sometimes you can heat treat it. That's an art and a science in its own self. From the same deposits. This one's been heat treated. Sometimes it takes color. You dig it out of the ground and it's white, and you fire it in a sand bath at 1,500 degrees, something like that, and it makes it more of a workability. It jazzes up the quality, and you get some cool colors sometimes. Pinks, yellows. When I first started getting into this, I'd go to the arrowhead sites looking for arrowheads, and I'd find the little flakes around and broken pieces and even an occasional whole one that had this pink color. I'm looking for miles around every hillside trying to find out where that pink rock comes from. Ain't none. You gotta heat treat it. And it took me more than a decade to figure that out.
They throw it in fire or something?
You actually put it in a sand bath so it doesn't explode. I put a few inches of sand underneath it and then a few inches of sand on top of it. And then I try to keep a fire going for 2 days. Sometimes I ramp up that heat to where the sand is melted to my preform blanks. So however hot that is.
So that's like kind of like raccoon pottery.
Right, okay, so I had a lady friend at one time who done pottery pieces native style, and when I fired a batch of my flint, she did a batch of her pottery, and it actually took color from some of my chert.
You're kidding.
Local Burlington chert, it took some of the coloration. You can see it in the pottery in the same color right there, peach and pink
Oh my word.
on some of the stuff that she made. And it is shell tempered pottery. And she had like 4 or 5 pieces in there. I think one of them kind of,
Yeah.
but you have to be super careful. But I know what you're talking about, the pottery thing. And there has been some done at my place with the chert, we'll say, or flint, either way.
So where did you steal that idea of how to fire? How did you acquire that knowledge?
History that I eventually was able to acquire. I'm not even sure of the
Source?
not sure of the source, but I have a library of about 200 and some odd books that I've been studying for a long time. I'm not sure about some of my early flint knapping books that I did find, some little paperback, 25 pages, explained if you're having some of this rough material, you might be able to heat treat it in a sand bath and make your workability number get better. So it's not so lumpy, that you can take more of a smooth flake off. You do good heat treating and it makes your material more glassy or waxy. If you can take a flake off there and rub it and it's glassy or waxy, you know you got a good material and you'll be able to do your thing out of it.
Does that make it stronger also?
there's a debate on that. I'm not sure about all that. I know it makes workability better. So if it's rough and grainy, sometimes if you don't heat treat it, it wants to chatter, and you can't take controlled flakes out of there to make a nicer looking piece. You have to be able to control that to some degree. And some of it that's too rough, I just throw off to the side. About 2 in 10 places that I go look for material qualify for me to start messing with it. But some of it I can do it right there on the site. I found creek gravel before and made one right there out of what was just around me before.
So is there any other one that's transparent besides that?
Not sure.
'Cause that's amazing, like there's a pattern in there. that
I
you
have
can see
some
from the
high banded stuff at the house that's got really dramatic lines in it that come from Brazil. I think these are all solid. I know I got more raw material at the house that's translucent, but I think that's the only one that I got with me that's finished.
That's amazing.
Can you use jade?
No. Now I can grind jade.
Jade's too soft.
Jade's hard.
Oh, hard.
Jade's hard.
Hard.
I can make an axe out of jade.
Okay.
Primitively if I wanted to. It'll take a
What
while.
about turquoise?
Makes nice jewelry.
Okay.
So did,
Hold that one to the light. Sharp edges, be careful, but hold that one up there. See the line?
yeah,
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
How,
the line.
how long have people been flint knapping?
Since the beginning of time.
Oh my, isn't that?
Flint napping's older than prostitution.
So thousands, tens of thousands of years?
More than I can figure or calculate. From the beginning of time. The first time somebody tried to pick up a rock and make a hammer out of it and shear a piece off and then cut their hand with a sharp edge, they started figuring real quick about how if they work that a little bit, it makes multiple different tools. I usually make preform blanks that's teardrop shaped like this. That's what some of the first flint knapping was pieces like this. They put leather on it and used it as a hand axe to chop, to bisect meat from bone, to separate bones apart. So in those actions, it gets dull. So you take more flakes off of it. Some of these little flakes you're saving and using. Get some little bit of durability out of them. And then by the end, you got some finished spear point or knife blade or something like that. I do a whole thing that's called a hunting scenario. I start off, I've killed a bison, I have a piece of rock in my pouch. I've killed a bison with my spear, I broke the spear. I broke the spear and I got tonnage of meat here and I'm by myself. So that's camp for a while. So you got your broken spear point, so you're taking this raw rock and you're knocking pieces off. You're taking the hide off, you're cutting tendons, you're bisecting meat from bone, you're hanging it up to start getting dry weight versus the wet. You're in scrapers, you're scraping the hide, you're doing this all while your people's coming. And you're getting it all ready. You're making it lighter for them and more long distance use.
So when you take the meat off, is that dry, like
You
dehydrating?
thin strips on a wooden rack over a smoky fire. And just keep working on stuff. It's called the hunting scenario. And so in the end, this big piece of rock that you made all the different tools that you work with in all this, in the end, you get your spear point back. That's the last stage. And you may have a few small scrapers and whatnot, and you put them in your pouch. And there's nothing left there but a bunch of little bitty flakes, and nobody knows what happens, but there's some bones there, and there's some flakes there, and that's all they leave behind.
Oh my word.
Out of the whole, well, nothing's wasted. The tail was made into a war club. The tail of the buffalo was dipped in pine tar and flint chips. And that's a war club. They didn't let nothing go to waste.
So that makes it strong, like wood, yeah?
Well, it's actually a lot more flexible than everything else. It made a pretty mean war club. The tail of a buffalo, that fluff, that tuft at the end,
Oh, they would use it.
roll
Roll
that in liquid tree sap. And then when I do my flint knapping, all those little razor blades down there in the pile, you take that sticky tail and you roll it in that flint chips. And that makes a pretty tremendous weapon. Like I say, they didn't try to leave anything or waste anything. It was almost a sin to waste. But this is most of the tools that you see on the video. Here's where I start off with a big hammer stone. I got bigger ones at the house, just a nice creek cobble. And you can see where I've been working it there. It's got some wore off the end.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I broke them, wore my sleeves up too. And I've
Ever
also,
have it attached to a handle?
nope, this is the way I'm precision. So at the top end, now I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. At the top end of this, it is as technically challenging as brain surgery or faceting diamonds. Now I'm not to the master's degree. Oh no, it is. I'll tell you. It is. Now I'm not there yet. I don't say I have a master's degree. I know it said something, master craftsman or something like that. I won't say, I would never really say that, but I'm pretty good.
So they would use that sharp to faucet diamonds?
I'm sorry?
They would use the sharp edges, you could use it to
Cut it?
cut diamonds?
No,
No.
the technical challenge, the skill of doing this,
Oh, okay.
the skill of doing this is almost as technically
Yeah, oh,
challenging
okay.
as brain surgery or diamond cutting. The technical skills. Now, I'm not at that master's degree, but I'm working on it.
So when you have a buffalo, how many days does that take to do it?
This is just a scenario.
Oh.
I would imagine days. And you'd probably be waiting for the rest of your crew to come up and help you. But you're prepping everything for them. Everything you're doing is making that load lighter. So to carry it on, it's less weight. And just working your pieces down, working that hide down, working the meat down, feasting on all the good parts before everybody else gets there. Saving some for the right folks, for sure. But it's called the hunting scenario. Like I say about breaking the spear point, and you just got a chunk of rock, and you got all the tools you need there. You got a little bit of these tools, and you got a rock, you make anything happen. Anything that I need to survive, I can do with that. I say I can run off in the woods with nothing and make it. But
Have you put them on arrowheads or do you?
oh no, I made finished pieces. I make bows also, steam recurve. I made a set with agate tips that I say will punch through a sapling or bone. Agate's about a 7 or 8 on the hardness rating. And I made some killer stuff like that. Turkey feather fletching, river cane shaft, hardwood fore shaft, and hardwood knock. Yep, and done all that. Bows, drums, clubs.
You have any of those here this evening? No.
No, I had about half a dozen and they all got burnt up. So I'm lucky to have what I got. I lost about 30 years of what I call my war room. Full moose antler rack.
Cobble bar, you mean? Oh.
Yep. Yes, sir. Burnt to the ground. I lost 30 years of my life. I had stuff in there that I collected from around the world and been working on for 30 years. And it all went up in flames. Part of it was a workshop, and I was trying to heat it. I got some heat going. I went back into my cabin. I had breakfast. I was fixing to go to work, and smoke went across the front of the glass. I knew I was in trouble then. It never straightened out. I almost lost everything. But
So did it melt any of the?
I had a bunch of historical bottles. I also do bottle digging. So I had a whole wall full of milk crates, full of 100 to 150-year-old bottles.
Oh my word.
All gone. I got a couple little things like this out of it. Everything. So that stuff gets hot, and then the fire department sprays it with water.
Oh, it shatters, huh?
I had big chunks of obsidian over there from Brazil like this, and from rainbow obsidian with purple and blue and green stripes through it. Just blow it all to pieces.
Oh my.
All run. I didn't get very much out of that, but I had some nice donations of tools afterwards, and I had a couple of buddies bring me some different flints and whatnot, so it's all right, nobody got hurt. I still got my cabin, so I'm pretty happy with that.
What kind of wood did you make your bows from? Osage or something?
I hate hedge. I hate hedge. Osage orange, it's also called hedge.
Yes.
It's also called Bows d'Arc by the French. I'm very well familiar with it, and I do not like it. I've made about 3 out of it. As far as I'm concerned, it's junk. And traditionally, as far as I know, that species didn't grow around here back in the day anyway. No, my favorite is hickory. Or if I can get my hands on black locust. Now, here's some of the hardest wood around.
I just cut some off today.
I didn't get none of this because this came from Brazil. It's called Pelope. It's a Brazilian hardwood. They don't have wintertime in Brazil. Growth rings, there's no gaps in between them. They're compacted, one on top of the other. Natives down there in Brazil fire harden this wood and shoot through the bottom of helicopters with it. Twice as heavy and 3 times as hard as black walnut. Called Pelope. Some of my favorite wood to work. And I made about an 80-pound bear bow out of it.
So that is a spear or what you?
It's a war club.
Okay.
It's for scuttling a small canoe. This. This. I said I can put that through a car door. I bet more than $1 I can.
So the wood's real compacted,
Real compacted. There's no growth. So around here we have wintertime.
right? So we got-
There's gaps in between the growth rings.
Right.
The tropical rainforests don't have wintertime. So those rings are right on top of each other.
Oh my.
Makes it super hard and heavy. It's called Pelope. It's from Brazil. Now I made the piece, but I got the raw materials. I built a deck out of that stuff that was $50,000.
Yeah.
A 5/4 board, 8 foot is a $100 bill.
Each piece?
A 5/4 board, 8 foot long is a $100 bill. That was 20 years ago. It's called Pelope. It's from Brazil. It's my most favorite wood. I don't like hedge. The Osage you're talking about, Osage orange, I know a lot of guys that's big time into that. But you get off of that growth ring, if you stray from the growth ring, your bow's gonna come apart on it. Now,
I've made some that were laminates and fiberglass, and I broke one, cut down the cheek.
them growth rings, you gotta be careful with that. Now, see, there's something that's very similar to it that I like, and you don't have to worry about that. It's mulberry. Mulberry. When you're cutting it, it's just orange yellow, just like the hedge. You don't have to worry about the growth rings near as much.
But you like black locust,
Black locust. Hickory's favorite.
I'll probably cut 150.
Hickory's the best around. I mean, the best I was gonna do, I had pieces for a, like you talk about composite bow with the steam recurves, about like this, and I had pieces of horn cut out for the back, and elk rawhide for the back and horn for the belly is what I'm trying to spit out. So it'll be a 3-piece laminate, and those things are unbelievable. A bow this that shoots way out there and super high powered. I never got to do it. I had it in my workshop. Guess what happened? Burnt up.
That's as long as the bow is.
No, I just did them where the curves at.
Oh.
Now the back with the elk, now that is mostly coated. The tips I would have done with either a piece of elk antler or that horn again. But the belly part of it that's facing you, horn. And it was only about 3/4, like where the curve is. Triangular shape cut. And then you steam and put it on there with hide glue. And I had the components, I had everything going, and then like I say, my shop burned down.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see a bow now. But yeah, the arrow part, the actual arrow part, I'd rather make 10 bows than to make a matched set of shooter arrows.
Okay.
there's that much more work into it. It is, you really have to have it right or it will not shoot true. It won't shoot true, that's correct. That's correct, it won't,
They
so,
fly that way.
well, you gotta tune them things like a fine instrument. Like I say, I'd much rather make a bow or 10 bows as a match set of any kind with a stone tip on it.
Now, did this, war instrument you have,
Weapons.
was that ever have a, ceramic, head on it or rock?
Sure. I used to make a bunch of them, but I travel with them and I go to a lot of shows, and so I quit putting stuff like that on there because I was worried about somebody doing something goofy and getting hurt real bad. Sure. I've made stuff with copper, where I hand forge copper pieces to put on a gun stock war club, similar to this. You can see right there, 2 holes. Those are set up for 2 trade spikes right now. 2 iron trade spikes. So that's what them holes is for. So yeah, I do, but I'm kind of particular about them. And anything I make like that, I always got to make some kind of leather sheath for it that goes on here, because invariably somebody will be a knucklehead and get hurt.
Can I see that?
Sure. This is also a piece of the Palope.
What wood?
Palope from Brazil.
Palope?
Palope.
Oh,
Palope.
I just had it.
Twice as heavy and 3 times as hard as black walnut.
Okay, so it's a lot heavier than a red cherry, or,
Where that comes from, there's no winter time.
yeah.
Where that comes from, there is no winter gap in the growth
I
ring.
think the cherry was square, I think a cube of cherry is supposed to be 100 and some pounds, you know, block.
Mm-hmm.
This would be 12.
That won't float, I'll tell you that.
Right.
That will not float. I know for a fact.
Float?
Float, like on water. Yeah, it'll sink.
Huh.
I promise you. Because one of my paddle war clubs went with me before to scuttle a inner tube down the river, and the first thing I tried to check it out, and I let go of it in there, but oh boy. Well, I gotta hang on to that for the whole trip. My first experiment out. Pass it around if you'd like. Go ahead. Go ahead, you guys look at it.
When you think, what do you make of it? So,
Yeah, just like that.
yeah,
I just love the
yeah,
wood.
there's,
You see the woods drop right through here.
yeah.
Must have been a dry season or something, you had one
I-
darker.
I have no idea. I just love that stuff though.
It's different.
Now this piece here, now I actually cut this tree down as part of my work with the Wood-Mizer sawmill. I cut the tree down. If you're familiar with a burl knot, this is a burl knot from 35 feet up in the tree. And so one of the conditions of me doing the sawmilling is I get to take all the cool pieces with me. You're gonna pay me, and if I see something like this, it's mine. Don't cut it up.
What is that?
Black walnut.
No, what is the
Ball Head War Club. Ball Head War Club.
wood club?
Ball Head War Club.
War club, okay.
All these are war clubs.
I'm happy there's one dead.
Here's a smaller version for somebody that's smaller.
Yeah.
So it pretty much goes size appropriate. Somebody that's only 150 pounds don't want this. This is a sledgehammer. This is mine. I'm about 300 pounds. And I wore it hundreds of miles in my belt, in my sash, just like that. I got a big wide sash that goes around me about 3 times and hangs down here and just slides into it. This is more like for a nice lady. Somebody get out of line,
Wow.
you straighten them right out. That's right.
Isn't that?
So I try to make something for everybody.
Those, that really got them, you really smooth these off good.
Sure.
Yes, because they were really,
And so that's the root. Now that one's not a burl knot. That is a root ball. Sapling on a hillside like this. Sapling on a hillside automatically makes that curve. This is where all the roots are out. And then I carve away everything that's not that.
so that's the center of the group.
This is the root ball, correct.
Native species?
Hickory.
Okay.
That's, somebody of smaller stature, somebody that's 100 pounds, 150, whatever, you don't want a sledgehammer. You got it growing out of a hillside like this.
Yeah.
And so that's how it gets that curve in there, it does it automatically. So if you're tearing down stuff and you're looking for something cool, look on those hillsides, because it's there. A bunch of these piles, you see guys bulldoze up piles and burn them, just makes me sick. Because there's so much in there that could be worked with, and they just don't see it.
Yeah, but you can't give it away.
I know, I can only do so much, I'm just one guy.
So is that mass, is that wood also?
No, this is copper,
Oh, that's,
it's made out of copper,
mm-hmm.
and I can wear it. It's a medicine, my representation of a medicine mask. So I work with a little bit of medicine, sage, burning, crystals, that kind of stuff. And so when you exorcise evil spirits out of somebody else, it enters you through your mouth.
So you have no mouth.
Just like the doctors with the little, same thing, thousands of years before. No, that's copper. This is moose antler. Like in the video, I had moose antler earrings just like this. That's a piece of moose antler. This is all
So
forged.
they're hollow, moose antlers are hollow? No, you cut it out.
Or like ivory.
Oh, okay. Wow.
They're like ivory.
Oh my, I'd like to have earrings like that.
I'm a guy what can make them. But I don't do pinhole jewelry. So that means opening you up.
Oh.
I mean, it takes a pretty good hole.
It looks like wood.
Moose antler. Say the moose antler was like this or whatever. And so this is just a slice taken out of it and then the center carved out. I used to have a little stone bead that fit in there.
My.
Copper, no steel, modern tooling was used in the shaping of this of any kind. No. It was done on a leather pad, on some kind of cottonwood stump, I believe. And there's my shaping tool. One side, the other side.
What kind of gauge did you start? Would you start with a sheet?
Yeah. This is something I come across scrapping.
The more you work copper, the harder it gets.
Correct. That is why somewhere I think on the cheekbone, yeah, I worked it just a little bit too far.
Oh,
See
yeah.
the daylight?
Yeah.
So there's some little bitty hairline right there that I pushed it too much to the max, and it does. It's called work hardened.
Correct.
And so once it starts getting too much like that, you'll break it. If you ain't real careful, you'll break that in a minute if you ain't real careful.
It's so dark, it looks like wood.
Well, it's been around a long time. It's been
So
around.
how did you acquire the knowledge? I mean,
It's an ongoing thing. When I started out in the beginning, there wasn't much information. I could come across it 30 years ago. I just whacked at raw pieces of chert for 2 years. I mean, eventually I realized once I put black and blue marks on my legs, I beat this until it turned black and blue, then I beat this until it turned black and blue. And then I realized, hey, you can throw a pad down on your leg. And I started off with a bathroom floor mat on my leg to protect myself. I didn't know anything. All I knew is I liked arrowheads. I got a few drops of native blood and I was highly interested. I collected and hunted after them. I found thousands of arrowheads and I wasn't going to rest until I figured out how it was done. Now I'm still no master, but I know the basics of how it's done and I can show that at any time.
Now, with your stone, what other type do you use to make arrowheads?
All this stuff right here.
In other words,
This is my toolkit.
it's not all the quartz stuff.
This is my toolkit and support piece. I can do it with a whole lot less. There's my toolkit. 2 pressure flaker punches, 2 wedge tools. This is a small beater. You can see, I'll beat a few things with that.
All copper, both copper.
Elk antler. Hammerstone.
Now, what kind of rock is this?
Creek cobble. Whatever jumped over the fence.
Okay,
As long as it don't blow apart.
do you know whether, what do you call it, flint?
Flint knapping.
Yeah.
What about it now?
Any other people around you know,
More than I can count.
or how about Arrowhead Fred?
Yeah, I know Fred. Fred knows who I am. He knows who I am.
We went to school with.
Oh, cool. No, I've been knowing Fred for halfway for a couple of
I don't
decades.
know how he ever keeps from knocking his fingers off of that little hand.
Right?
He's got a hand only about that long on his side.
One of my first mentors just passed on. Tim Murphy. I say the word Tim Murphy. He's world renowned. He has stone knives that he takes to Japan and sells for $2,000 to $3,000.
Wow.
Stone blades, yeah, 10 inches or a foot long blade.
Okay.
Yeah, out of rock.
Oh, flint. Okay, do you use flint rock then too?
Now, flint is a loose term, okay? So we want to get technical, there is none. Flint ain't a thing, that's a hillbilly term. It's chert. It's church, jasper, agate, obsidian.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, this flint thing, yeah, that's slang.
Do all of you know where that one creek is in Illinois where
make one of
they
those.
pick the rocks out of?
I've been to many, I don't know. I've been all over the place, but I've been all over Missouri, Illinois, and Arkansas for 3 decades.
She said that to
If there's a
her.
place where there's rock and I can make something out of it, I probably took a piece of it home.
I was a show over somewhere over in Illinois and they
A festival, a Flint Knife Festival,
were close to one of those creeks where they all like to
Look
get
at that
rock.
grade on there.
talk about like a flint knapping festival.
Yes, yeah.
Never been to one.
Yeah.
I've never been to one.
Well, the one always conflicted with,
Yeah, Fort Dechard.
Dechard.
I will never miss Fort Dechard for anything.
but I do know that Dongola comes out of the.
Yeah, Dongola. There's also, what is it, Hornstone over there in Illinois. There's a few different things that's kind of hard to get your hands on. I got a couple pieces.
But that Nappin that's in southern
Yeah,
Illinois,
it's
that
that
would be
weekend.
closer to
It's the same weekend as
someplace
Summer
where
Fork.
Dongola would be found.
Right. I'm busy.
And, you know,
I have important skirmishes to work on. I ain't got time for rocks when there's
You
dudes
make
that
a
fight.
living at this or not?
I mean, for a while I did, but mostly concrete.
Oh,
I'm a concrete form setter and finisher 30 years. So I put 40 hours a week in from Monday to Thursday, and then I go to a show for 3 days. I've done that 17 weeks in a row.
Oh my gosh. Oh my.
Hardcore.
yeah.
I don't know a day off.
You ever find interesting rock in the concrete?
Yes, I have. I've actually found arrow points in the gravel they bring out. Oh yeah, for sure. Some of the places that they bulldozed for me to put concrete in, I'm the first guy there.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing but an open hole and dirt. They spread that stuff out, and if it rains for a day or two, I'm taking every lunch break minute I can steal to try to look for arrowheads.
I came from an area where they must have had camps, because if you tilled fields and it rained, then you had visitors.
I walked in.
They knew it, and it was a long point of a,
So you look for, so here's what you do.
yeah.
I give you a tip on where to go. You go find a confluence of 2 pieces of water
Yes,
and a high ground.
that's it, that's what it is.
I don't even need to look at a map.
And
You show me where that's at and I'll show you a piece of flint.
this area, the water goes around that point.
So the waterways in history were the super highways. They were the super highways. So if you got where 2 places was coming from water, you could trade with these people over this way and you could trade with these people over this way. So where the 2 come together at that confluence and you get a high rise, so if it floods, you're still safe. I can spot them, you show me a topo map, and I'll show you where arrowheads are at.
But you don't follow the, what you chirp then?
You can, they're interchangeable,
But you like, what is that? The one you hit, what is it called?
most of the stuff that I have is Burlington chirp. There's about 5-state area. There's a whole chain over in Illinois. I think you can get big chunks of that where they make pieces like the Livorn mace and some other big pieces out of big pieces of chirp. I'd love to get some big chunks like that. Most of what I get is more like, smaller.
One you can carry?
Yeah, for sure. If not, I'll just bring me a big hammer and I'll break it down just a little bit. But those nice, super pure pieces of that Burlington chain, I think is mostly over there. But yeah, I found a place up in High Ridge, and one summer, besides the concrete work, every day I was going to Mountaintop they were shearing off, and I'd get between 500 and 1,500 pounds of Burlington. So if you're looking to get into it, I have a 55-gallon drum full of teardrop shaped blanks that's ready to be started working on. Heat treated, the whole thing.
And heat treated?
I got a 55-gallon drum full of heat treated Burlington chirp crescent.
How'd you find it's heat treated?
Because I made it that way.
Oh, you?
I did it.
Okay.
I quarried these off a mountainside and made them into preform blanks,
Yeah.
and then I heat treat them in something that looks like a barrier.
Okay, so you're ready to work on it.
I have heat tiles out of old stoves that I buried in a groove, and then I put about 3 or 4 inches of sand, and then I put my preform blanks down, and I've done some pottery pieces, also in conjunction. A friend of mine does some native pottery style, and then cover that with another 3 or 4 inches of sand, and you have to keep a good fire going on it for a couple days. If it rains on it, you're in trouble.
On top of it?
Put sand on top and underneath.
Of the
Yes.
fire?
Oh no. The stone blanks go encased in sand.
So your fire is on top of it or
Yes.
under it?
No, on top. So when I'm done, a lot of the times that I fire my chirp, I will have sand melted
Yeah.
to the Burlington blanks. And those first flakes I knock off have sand like welded to them because I get such a heat. I have some blow up on me sometimes. That's if you don't get enough sand and it gets too cool too quick, or you try to uncover it too soon, clink, 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 clink. You start hearing that, you're in trouble. That's all your stuff shattered, and it'll be buckshot. It'll take big pieces like that and turn it into gravel if you ain't real careful.
Too fast cooling?
Correct. I usually burn for 2 days, and I usually won't uncover it for a week.
What do you use, just like oak or something?
Any wood I can get my hands on. And whenever you add wood to your heat treating, be gentle. You just can't chuck that on there. If you do, it will explode everything. So whenever it's starting to burn down and you can get close enough to add to it, you just can't stand from a distance and chuck that in there. That vibration will destroy everything in there. So you have to just kind of roll it in and lay it in there and keep a serious fire going for 2 days. And at nighttime, whenever it gets down to just coals, I usually got a couple of pieces of tin I'll throw on top of it in case there's a spit in the middle of the night and don't blow everything up. So you got to be careful. You look at the weather forecast. You get as hot a wood as you can find. That's the best thing you can do with that hedge.
I was just,
That's the best thing you can do with that hedge you was talking about a while
That
ago.
just goes
Use it to
for
heat treat my church. That's my opinion on hedge. I mean, it works. There's a lot of guys that love it. I just personally don't because of, like you was talking about, that one kind of fire on it.
you can light it with a match.
You can light it with a match.
What's that?
Hedge.
Hedge?
If you have a shaving bucket in your shop, you best be real careful because that can explode.
Yeah.
One spark in a barrel of shavings with that chemical that puts off, it's like an explosive. I mean, one of my buddies had one go off in his shop and blow wood chips all over the place. And almost blew himself up. Hedge.
Like in spontaneous combustion.
Just like kerosene. The chemical in the hedge. I mean, you can light it with a kitchen match.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's got a turpentine or something in it. I think they actually did that, and when they was working some of it or something, would put a sheepskin over the top of the barrel using that, and it would draw that, and they would squeeze out, I believe, turpentine from that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't hold me to that.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Some of the early primitive ways to get some of these stuff and use everything.
What would you use black locust for? Any of the warrior tools or?
Bows. I mean, it's supposed to be pretty good bow wood. I mean, I've only done a couple out of that. Like I said, my favorite's hickory. You can't beat a good piece of hickory.
I'm just trying to find a use for black locust.
Well, mainly I like to stay away from it because it's got big old spikes on it about like that. The tree in my backyard's got probably 5-inch spikes on it.
Yes, yeah.
And the best thing I would do is turn that into a blowgun dart
Yeah.
out of a piece of river cane and a tuft of cotton on the end of it, blow dart. And that stuff's poisonous too. You better watch them stickers. That's poison too.
Well, it's not quite an eighth of an inch long. If that sticks in, it'll break off in your skin.
Oh no, the black locust I'm talking about's got 5-inch spikes.
But
And if
very
it gets
good.
you will be sick for a year from it. If that stabs you and you get that inside you, whatever wound that makes, it'll be a year before it heals.
And it stinks.
One of the things I did early on was kill a copperhead with one of my war clubs. And for a year, I had copperhead venom on my war club. I killed the copperhead with my war club, and it was striking at the blade of it.
Okay.
And there was crystal, you could see the crystals on it, where it struck, and was on there. And it took over a year of me carrying it to shows before that poison washed off. So I threatened guys with it.
It was like glitter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if I don't kill you tomorrow, if I don't kill you today, that'll kill you tomorrow.
Yeah, there's.
So what else do you have with you up there?
Well, stone pipes. I make a lot of stone pipes. Those are mostly out of the history books. I make some stone beads. So, for a long time, I made the little stone pipes. I never knew what to do with this little piece you cut out here. Now I turn it into beads. Bead.
What do you use to make the holes?
That's standard drill, masonry drill bit.
Oh.
I use power tools on this stuff.
Oh,
I can do it primitively. It's a lot more expensive. Now this stuff, there's no way to do it with power tools on it. And this is strictly primitive. There's no way to, grind that out or whatever. But this stuff is just a basic grinding, sanding. I got some diamond tools I work with. I use masonry bit to drill the holes, like in concrete, masonry bit.
What do you use on your wood items? What, do you use?
Power.
Knife or what?
Power tools. I got a draw knife.
Okay,
Sometimes on my bow making, I'll use a draw knife, and a little bit.
yeah,
For some rough shaping, if I really want to rip something, I got a draw knife.
okay,
Mostly power tools.
okay.
So, is it okay if we come up and look around?
Sure. Come look at my stuff. That hole right there was drilled with a primitive pump drill. I took a piece of agate, some of my flint knapping stuff, and made a little drill bit. Took a piece of slate and made a centrifugal clutch, a board with this shaft that goes through it. Piece of leather like this, and you wind it up. That's what made that hole.
Oh my goodness.
Do a piece of my carving rock.
Yeah, you can see it.
You can see that's not any masonry drill bit. You can see that's not a masonry drill bit. There's proof that I can drill a hole through a rock with another rock.
See that?
That's been featured in code.
See that inside, right?
Yeah.
Can you farm?
It's a compacted limestone.
Limestone.
Call it Osage.
So were you gonna draw us something?
I was if somebody was interested, but I think I kind of explained it with the cone fracture and with the BB thing. We seem to get it.